let's go to Houston now because I think this one's fascinating.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think that my optimistic, realistic, whatever else-istic situation is that you've found your offensive coordinator of the next 2 years.
Yep.
That's the big deal for me, right? And that's always the challenge of having great defensive head coaches. Mike Tomlin goes through it every couple years, and there's always that revolving door. We had a guy who looked like he was a rising star at offensive coordinator, had interviewed for jobs, almost got a few jobs after the first year, who's no longer there. And now you bring in Nick Caley, another guy with a lot of promise, expertise in the McVay system, but also a foundation in that
Yep.
Josh McDaniels offense, which is still really good. Um, so a lot of promise there. To me, that is where we start,
Yep.
because you're baking in, which I like. You're forcing CJ Stroud to develop his own highly drafted wide receivers. You're not going out. You're not doing the Stephon Diggs thing again. D'Amico Ryan's defense is always going to be great, but can this offense be sustainably good or good enough while Nick Caley is there? And if he's really good, obviously he's going to get a head coaching job. But can they be good for like 2 years and enough to get CJ Stroud into the next contract, basically?
Yeah. So I think that this team is, I think everybody is overlooking this team because they didn't live up to the expectations that everybody had for them last year. I think like they were 1 point down going into the fourth quarter at Arrowhead in the divisional round last year. Think about that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think people talk about them like they completely fell off the map, and they didn't. It was just the expectations were so high last year. So I'm with you. Like, I think the offensive coordinator hire is important. How they replace Laramie Tunsil, vital, right? Like, those are big box decisions that they made to fire Bobby Slowick and to trade Tunsil. And so, like, they have to get that stuff right. I think this is a team that should be knocking on the door of getting into the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Bengals tier. I put the Bengals there because they've been to a Super Bowl. So we should be able to say about them in December and January, they are right there with those teams.
Wow.
Because I
Wow.
just
Okay.
look at it and I think the way we digest their 2024 season is more about the way we set expectations for them than it is about their own progress. That defense has a chance to be nasty. I think that defense, I think they've got the culture where they want it. I think they've got everything right where they need it defensively. They can win a championship with that defense, right? Like I believe
Hmm.
that. Like I think CJ Gardner Johnson is going to come in and give them a little bit of swagger. I think as far as just pieces that you want, young pieces, I don't know if anybody could match the young edge rusher or corner combo that they have of Anderson and Stingley, right? And then offensively, uh, you have a young number one receiver in Nico Collins. You drafted two kids from Iowa State who I think both have a chance to be good in Higgins and Noel. You have, you have Christian Kirk coming in there. Tank Dell, we'll see. Maybe not till 2026, but he's still on the roster. Um, I don't know. And then CJ, I think, and I think the world of Nick Caley. Like, I think Nick Caley is going to empower CJ in a way he was empowered at Ohio State to have some control in the line. And I think CJ is going to be better because of it. I don't know. I mean, I think if they can figure out their tackle situation, and Nick Caley is who Josh McDaniels and Sean McVay think he is, right? Like
Yep.
two of the smartest offensive minds in football over the last 20 years. If Nick Caley is who McVay and McDaniels think he is, then I'm not saying they need to get to the Super Bowl, but we should be talking about them with the AFC teams that are in the Super Bowl mix. Like, I think there are four teams we can realistically talk about being in the Super Bowl mix right now, and that we have over the last few years that are in that top tier. They're the four teams I mentioned. Can the Texans level up to that point?
Wow. So you're looking at this as like BetMGM has them at 9.5. You're like, that's not even like, let's plow over that
12
thing.
wins.
12 wins.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick it right now, I mean, and again, like I think part of it's the division that they're in. Um, I don't know, like again, like you can be a victim of looking at the schedule now, but I like if they can make it through the beginning and there's some bumps in the beginning, they have the Rams and your Bucks there the first 2 weeks, like you start to look like down the stretch and like at Indy, at KC, Arizona at home, Raiders at home, at Chargers, Colts. It's workable. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like workable for them to be rolling towards the end of the year. I just refuse to ignore what I saw 2 years ago. I don't think last year was as much of a failure as people have made it out to be. I think D'Amico's a really good head coach. And I think Caley's going to do a good job. So I don't know. Like I think I'm a little higher on them than other people are because I think people are putting too much into like, yeah, it didn't look right. It was wonky last year. It was, but wonky for them was still, again, in the divisional round, down by 1 point going into the fourth quarter at Arrowhead.
These are your Colts. And I think so in a granular sense, if you got Cam Robinson and Laken Tomlinson here trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
Titus Howard over at guard, you have a 2024 second round pick over at right tackle, or you have Trent Brown. I think like if your offensive line isn't a black hole dumpster fire, I think that's a win. Like
Yep.
if it's, like because there's great offensive lines, there's bad offensive lines, and then there's the middle, which is like most weeks we're okay, right? I think
Yeah.
that's an optimistic one. You take
And that's
that,
what this all comes down to me is the offensive line.
yeah.
And Caley. And I believe in Caley. Like so I think this comes down to the offensive line.
You get the offensive line, you get into the playoffs, and then Albert looks at everyone and he's like, "I told you to bet the Texans.
And Titus
Fucking
Howard could be
shoot."
the guy, could be a guy at tackle too if they need him to be. So I think
Yeah.
gives him a little flexibility there. But anyway.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. That's the AFC South. Conor loves the Colts. What else is new? He's ready to get his heart broken again. Albert's going with the Texans. Safe. But that's not why we do this podcast, guys. It's not about safe. It's about blowing out a team's expectations so that it looks worse when they don't make the playoffs next year. Just kidding.